welcome. This is Benevolent History here, and I'm here to give you a commentary battle on the Syrian Flats. This is a 3v3, 31k, and on large scale, as you can see there. I'm playing as Julii Romans on the right. Magic is playing as the Julii Romans in the middle, and Lucas is playing as the Macedonians on the left. Now, in a 31k battle, obviously because the funds are so high, you really want to choose a faction like Rome, because Rome has very strong infantry and very strong cav. You don't want to choose factions like Macedon or Seleucia, because cavalry don't become as important, and pike phalanxes in general don't do well against urban cohorts and other sword-armed infantry. So Lucas has an army consisting of 16 royal pikemen, 40 units of companion cav. Magic in the middle has 14 urban cohorts gold, 6 Praetorian cav. I have the same thing as Magic on the right flank, because in a large scale with 31k, you're gonna basically have gold units, and these are respective opponents, all Rome. So the plan here is for Lucas to deploy in between Magic and I. That way Magic and I can protect Lucas's flanks while Lucas works his pikemen in the middle. So this is my opponent on the left. He has basically the same army as I, except I have a bit more cav. He has a bit more infantry. This is the opponent in the middle, and this is the opponent on the left. Essentially, our opponents have less cavalry than us, but more infantry than us. So at the onset, Lucas moves in his companions and his royal pikemen out to the middle. So Lucas takes advantage of the fact that the pikemen are only good against urbans when the urbans charge them frontally, because the pikemen are only drop down the sarissas, 5 ranks, but they're very vulnerable on the flanks, so that's why we have Magic and I deployed on the flanks there. So our opponents on the left and the right, both Rome, move to the middle in response to our movements. The only problem with the movements is that they don't position themselves as well, especially my rightmost opponent here, because basically the opponent on my right flank basically gave me the flank there. You see there, he's moving his troops and refusing the flank of the guy in the middle. So this allows me to take the full flank on the left, and we'll see what happens from there. You might also notice that I have a loose formation urban cohorts out in the front, as does everyone else. Have a loose formation troops in the front. That's basically to protect your troops from behind from pillar throws, because pillar throws, especially on large scale battle like this, are really deadly. You want to have a meat shield out front, or else all your troops will take too much damage, and you'll basically have a major disadvantage in the melee engagement. So you see here that the Scipii player on the left flank still refuses his flank even more. The problem is the fact that he leaves a pretty big gap vulnerable between his middleman and himself. You see there. I find that on a large scale battle like this, you're gonna have to rely on positioning more than you used to in a, let's say, a low money game, because all your units will last a long time. You're gonna have to take advantage of the positioning of your troops more than you would have. So on the right flank, the middle guy sends his Archer Auxilia on Magic's flank. There, that's a pretty good move, but in my opinion, bringing Archer Auxilia in a large scale battle like this is pretty much useless. You want to rely on the most expensive units. So on our left flank, Magic sends up his urban cohorts to throw pillar against the east type formation SPQR Romans. So at the same time, in the middle, Lucas and Magic sends up the infantry to exchange pillar with the middle guys, urban cohorts. Essentially, you see that Lucas sends up his royal pikemen, his meat shield royal pikemen in loose formation out in front. So those guys will take a bit of a hammering, but since Lucas did not upgrade his meat shields a lot, then it's not too big of a problem. For some reason, the SPQR player withdraws his troops quite awkwardly in this manner, in heavy columns. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing in game he might have misclicked all his units or something. But he does line up his troops later, and no harm is really done. So in the middle, the Scipii player essentially places his urban cohorts in testudo formation. Testudo formation are really only good when you're up against missiles. That surprisingly effective against pillar throwing infantry, because the shields actually protect very well against pillar. I think that's why he might have put his troops into testudo formation. However, Lucas and Magic take advantage of the fact that he placed his troops in testudo formation by just attacking them in melee with their infantry. Again, this kind of small engagement in the front goes on for a little while because both sides don't really want to reinforce the middle. Because I find that in 31k it's all about a gradual war of attrition against the enemy. So in other words, people do not charge all of their troops in all at once, or that would be just plain suicide. The pillar you see here really does a heavy damage against troops if you charge in without using your pillar. So you see there's a shot on the Ultra Auxilia on the right, flaming Magic's troops on the flank there. But I think he would have done better if he placed the Ultra Auxilia more to the flank. You see they're not really doing that much damage, the Ultra Auxilia. Also, the Ultra Auxilia were not upgraded at all, so they're not going to do much damage regardless. So at this point, on the left and the middle, both sides start engaging each other into melee, using small number of units. So you see there a Senate unit routes, while one of Magic's units routes. It just goes back and forth in this war of attrition you see there. Because Lucas is playing as Mastodon, has only Royal Pikemen, no urban cohorts. In the middle and on the right, our opponents will have a pretty distinct advantage there insofar as infantry. So you see there another one of Magic's units that bites the dust, while another Senate unit bites the dust. You see there, it's just a war of attrition at this point. Both sides sending in reserve units to reinforce the units that are fighting. So you see a few pockets of resistance and a few testudo formation Scipii troops. On the right flank, because of the fact that there was a huge gap between the two armies, I was able to send one urban cohort and throw pillar at one of the tight formation urban cohorts there. I do a very big damage, and I'm sure I helped my allies there. So at this point, the guy in the middle sends his cavalry force on our left flank. He makes a quick charge and jab at Magic's urban cohorts on the left flank there. See there. However, Magic responds very quickly, sending up a few of his Praetorian cav on his own to charge straight at the Scipii player's cavalry. See there. So the Scipii player lost a lot of cavalry in that engagement, but he did rout some of these urbans and did quite a lot of damage. This is just a prime example of the war of attrition going on here. One side counterattacks, but then the other side responds, and both sides lose basically the same losses. However, you'll notice on the left side that Magic's running out of reserves, and the SPQR player is just pushing through on his side. So on my side, the Scipii player facing me immediately charges his urbans in. He does a very good thing here, because in the back his urbans that are in tight formation are throwing pillar over the troops that are fighting, and doing a heck ton of damage on my tight formation urbans. Throw the pillar like I'm doing here, you have to select the unit and actively right click your opponent's infantry, and then when your urban cohort begins charging at the enemy infantry, press the halt button to stop them. So you see there on the right flank here that the Senate is basically outflanking all of the troops there. So Magic and Lucas basically have to compensate for it. And this Royal Pikeman you see here got a heck of a ton of damage against the pillar of the urbans. That Royal Pikemen, as with all Pikeman units, are very vulnerable to pillar throwing infantry, because the pillar does a lot of damage. So you see that on the right flank, on my side, I send 2 units of Praetorian cav out and smash the urbans on my right flank there. Whenever you see any kind of opportunity like that, you want to send your cavalry out to smash against your opponent's infantry. Even from the front, mass Praetorian Cav will do a lot of damage to even urban Croats, the toughest of infantry. You see on the left and the middle, the Royal Pikemen and the Urbans are going at it with each other. Both sides are running out of reserves, so this is going to turn out to be a very, very huge meat grinder, essentially, just like World War One. So anyhow, in preparation of attacking my opponent's cavalry, because I have superior cav on the right flank, I sent up my 6 units and amassed all my Praetorian cav on the right flank there. I need to do this because on the left flank and in the center we'll not be able to hold against all those urbans. You see on the left flank there that Magic basically has no reserves left, while the SPQR player does. So in order to compensate for that, Lucas and Magic plan to do a heavy cavalry assault on the troops on the left, while I do a cavalry assault on the troops on the right. That way, since we already have cavalry superiority anyway, we should be able to win that engagement and wrap around the infantry and do hammer and anvil strikes at will. So the attack begins on the left flank. Magic sends in his Praetorian cav and strikes at the Senate and the Scipio's cav. You see in the back there, you see that Lucas's cav get caught up on some urban Croats, but they do manage to make it in the fight. In the meantime, Magic's cav basically slaughter all of the Praetorian cav you see there. So, our enemies try their best to support the cavalry by sending in the infantry into this like bedraggled mass. But the problem is, at this point, our cav, it's already checkmate. Our cavalry destroyed all of the cav on the right. So at hearing the news of this victory, I send in all my cavalry out to attack the cavalry of my opponent there. I send 2 cavalry units to strike the infantry and provoke this frontal assault, while I send my other cavalry around on the flank there. My 2 cav on the left will get a lot of damage, but they'll be able to hold the line until reinforcements arrive. And look, it's the companion cavalry from the left flank, riding around all across the enemy's back lines and striking these Scipii Romans in the back, supporting my cavalry and thus destroying all of the Scipii's and the Senate's cavalry abilities. Now we have a complete advantage over our opponents in the fact that we have cavalry left to do hammer and anvil strikes while they cannot. So Magic, Lucas, and I use all of our cavalry to destroy all of the urban Croats that were initially winning in the infantry scruffle. So on the left, Magic uses his remaining Praetorian cav to hammer and anvil the urban Croat infantry. Lucas sends in his companion cav to attack the Scipii infantry there, while I send in my Praetorian cav to destroy the Scipii troops on the rightmost flank. However, I make a grave mistake in that I let my cavalry go into a prolonged melee with his infantry. In other words, my general pays the price, and all my cavalry essentially rout at this point, being that they were surrounded by stronger urban Croat infantry. Some of my urban Croats do rout, but on the whole, my urban Croats realize that victory is in their grasp, and they make the final push onto the enemy, trying to avenge the leader's death after all. So you see here that some Scipii Romans that pass through the gap in the middle were hammered and anviled by Lucas's companion cav, and the Scipii troops remaining in the center are being held off by Lucas's pikemen. And you see there, Lucas outflanks them with his own royal pikemen, and it's like squeezing a little fruit in the middle and just popping it. Again, Magic sees the opportunity and sends his Praetorian cav to totally devastate this urban Croat that was in Testudo. And unfortunately, their shields cannot protect a full frontal cavalry assault, and then a little shot at the urban Croats in the middle. They're all basically about to rout soon. And this is a death blow against my enemy on the right. Magic sends in his remaining cav to help out my infantry and totally devastates all of these Scipii urban Croats. Basically, all of them rout at this point. Over the ones in the center, they cannot escape, so they have to be forced to die, essentially. My troops basically cut them down one by one. Now the right has collapsed, as with the left. So, in other words, it's raced against the center. our right and left both thrust at the opponent's remaining center. And the center troops, obviously having no escape route, all die facing the enemy. I hope you enjoyed watching a 3v3 31k video. Hope you rate it, hope you subscribe to my YouTube page, hope you comment on this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching and learned something out of it.